Thanks for joining CBC Rewind, where we sit down with Pastor Gary as he dives deeper into his sermon. All right, Community Bible Church, thank you so much for tuning in today. I am here with Pastor Gary. How are we, sir?
Dude, I'm kind of mellow today, man. It's kind of it's kind of a laid-back day.
I like that. Good.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of recording today, so we're going to need some energy from you later
Okay,
on.
better get after it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Put my game face on.
So this past Sunday was pushing back the darkness pastorally.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not a pastor, do you not have to listen to this message?
No, you do not. It's only for like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, okay.
No, we all have a role. We all have a place in the kingdom to guide others, to shepherd others,
Mm-hmm.
to love them enough to tell them, you know, this may be the way to go in, like the narrow way. The general way leads to destruction.
Yeah.
So we need people in our life, you know. Look at the culture. The culture knows this.
Right.
Someone handed me another business card the other day, a life coach.
Okay.
Or a mentor. We use those words, coach, mentor. The world gets it. We need people in our life that can kind of, hold hands, not enable, but bring us along.
Sure.
We need those people.
Mm-hmm.
Matriarchs and patriarchs.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? That's what we need. So in that respect, I think we can all be a, quote, pastor to someone.
Okay, so it's not kind of the word that we might just assume that it's just the pastor of a church, but this is a role that we can all take on.
No, that's just the point. I think it is the word that we assume that.
Yeah.
And we don't need to. I think we all need to see that we have that function and we can operate in that area in people's lives because they need us to. And frankly, we need to do that
Very good.
with others.
Very good. Guys, thank you so much for sending in some questions. We have a few here that we're going to go over. So this one here says, hello, Pastor Gary. How do you handle situations where there is hostility or contempt when you evangelize?
Okay. Hostility or contempt when you evangelize. Okay. That could be taken 2 ways, I guess. The person you're evangelizing could have some contempt. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
These guys in college try to pray with me all the time. I call them the God Squad. They try to get me in my car in the parking lot, lock the doors, and make me pray. So that was contemptuous. So if we're trying to minister to someone who has contempt for what we have to say, or quite resistant, then perhaps we need to step back and analyze. Is the timing of the Spirit of God such that we're going to run into that?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's be sensitive to that. Is that field fertile and ready for seed?
So is that the rocky?
Yeah, that's
soil,
a great way.
right,
Yeah,
the rocks,
the parable. Yeah,
the
we
parable.
talked about that.
Is that what those people are?
Do I want my seed of the
Right.
gospel falling on hardened hearts, hardened ground, concrete? So maybe my timing's off. Okay. So there's another way to take that question, I guess, is the person isn't in contempt for the gospel that I'm sharing with them, but the circumstances and the context is. I was sharing the gospel with this homeless guy in Ocho Rios one time, and the place was going ballistic. All around us, there was mayhem and confusion and screaming and horns honking. It was weird. It was like all hell was breaking loose. In that situation, no, you go forward, because that really is letting you know, man, you're making ground.
Yeah.
The guy ended up coming to Christ. That was an incredible afternoon. I'll never forget that. But let's back off and be sensitive if someone's not the least bit open.
Yeah.
But let's press forward if what we're doing is rattling the darkness.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have another question here. It says, in being led to live a life more pastorally, what are some good examples that new believers can look at?
Oh, good. Well, first of all, I hope there are good examples for new believers. There is. There's some wonderful people in the church. If you're a new believer, let's define that. How would you define a new believer?
I mean, I would probably say someone who is just dedicated their life to Christ, maybe within the last 6 months.
Okay, 6 months. Yeah, it could even be longer than that. Depends.
Yeah.
So it's not really a matter of quantity of time, is it? It's a matter of quality of time.
Sure.
What's happened since, could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I hope not. But what has or has not happened in the relationship with Christ?
Maturity level.
A maturity level. So I would say a new believer should be looked at as that. not a week or month or 6 months. All right. I would say to those folks, first of all, wonderful. That's incredible. You gave your life to Christ. That's the first thing I'd say. And the second thing I'd say is go more on offense than hold back. And I did this, and it paid off huge for me in my life. Seek people out that look like someone who has what you want, and they can invest in you and you can receive it. So look for the spiritual father, or look for the spiritual mother if you're a female, and seek them out and ask for help. If not for them directly, then who can they ask for someone to help you, right? Yeah. Okay, that's the first thing I'd say to those people. We need that. I was trying to build a team of intercessors one time, and I highly believe that people in vocational ministry need a team of intercessors. So what did I do? Well, I went to the worship service and I watched people worship. And it's kind of awkward because, it's kind of like you're stalking somebody.
Spying people, yeah.
I watched people worship, and I ascertained in my own heart who here is connecting with God. Because if you could connect with God in worship, you're an intercessor as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So I would call them into my office, and they go, well, yeah, what can I do for this? Out there in trouble or something, like to go in the principal's office. I said, man, to be honest with you, I'm building a team of intercessors, and I've watched you worship, and it seems so genuine. Will you prayerfully consider doing that? Well, if you're a new believer, I'd say to you, watch people worship. You can't fake worship. And if people are connecting, ask them to help you along. Older women are supposed to teach younger women how to love their husbands. Younger men are supposed to receive from older men. Iron sharpens iron. So go on offense and be more forward about that. If you're in a passive context, because you want that, whether you realize it or not, you want that. We all do. We all want and need that.
Yeah.
So I would say that to them.
Nice.
To new believers, yeah.
So is there a role then that we might have where we might not be the one to pastorally lead someone, but we have a role in maybe setting up someone else? Like we kind of see like a good match, like a matchmaker.
Yeah, sure.
So what kind of role do we have there maybe in asking someone like, hey, there's this new believer, you are a seasoned believer, and I believe kind of, personalities match up and the lifestyles and things like that. What kind of role do we have there? That's a great way
the body ought to function, actually, in a family. We each need to know our limitations, whether it be experience or understanding, even availability. We need to know our realistic limitations. But we also need to know that, if you know enough people in a spiritual family, you know what they are strong at and what they've been through. Connecting people is a huge part of ministry.
Yes. Yeah.
Like someone's been through a chronic illness. Somebody has a chronic illness. This isn't rocket science, brain surgery. Just hook them up, get them together. There is that role, and it's a necessary one. It's kind of like we all have to function interdependent upon one another, and we have to see things and pray about things to get the right people together in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I've seen some really beautiful discipleship relationships over the years. And because you're in one doesn't mean that relationship is going to go on until the rapture.
Right.
There's a season for it.
Yeah.
Right? There's a time frame. And then you realize, you know what, okay, it's time to move on because you find out you're in a different place. So I think connecting, networking, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is highly beneficial.
Nice.
And highly recommended.
Yeah.
So the new believer needs to be more on offense, asking for help. The networker guy, girl, for lack of a better word, needs to be actively praying about that. And then those who want to disciple others need to let that be known.
Need to be open.
Be open. Everybody needs to be open. Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned a word just there, discipleship. Can that word be interchanged with, pushing back the darkness pastorally? Can that word be just replaced with it? Or are those two different things, pastorally and discipleship?
I think they are and they're not. So I guess I'm a pastor. What does that mean? Well, I've got specific vocational obligations and responsibilities given to me by a calling that I need to fulfill. Are they all discipleship? No, not specifically, but obviously that's something I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't use the words fully interchangeably. A pastor is supposed to equip God's people for works of service.
Mm.
What does that mean? Equip those who disciple others. Equip those who facilitate small groups. Equip those who evangelize, so that the body of Christ might be built up and we end up with the fullness of Christ, maturity. So I don't think it's all discipleship, but I think that's a part of it. And it can't be all, because one person, someone told me one time, it takes about 5 years for a congregation to bond with a pastor.
Oh, wow.
And after 5 years, that pastor really only is truly personally influencing on some level 100 people. Now think about that.
No matter how big the church gets.
No matter how big.
Interesting.
I think our capacity maxes out at 100. So what really means is about 50.
Yeah.
What it really means is Jesus had 12. So why are we, So this whole mega church thing, come on.
Yeah.
We need under shepherds,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So a pastor does disciple people, but that's not all he does. All right, now, a person who's not a pastor can definitely disciple people all the time. And what is that? What is a disciple? Do you know what the word means? Any idea?
No.
Most people use it. They never know what it means. I'm going to tell you the word disciple means the same thing as Taliban. Do you know that? No. This will freak you out. Taliban means student. So you're a student
mm-hmm.
of what? Well, in this case, thank God, a student of the teaching of Christ. You're an active pursuer and follower of Christ. And you're learning as you go. Learning what? Simply knowledge? No, but yes. It's memorizing? Yes, but that's not all it is. You're learning how to live, to make choices. You're learning how to want. You're learning how to learn. You're learning how to help others learn
mm-hmm.
and grow. So in that respect, discipleship is the ever-evolving process of becoming a student of life, the life of Christ. Christ in you, the hope of glory. So that's a disciple. We all need discipleship. We're not all pastors. But we can be pastoral in the way we disciple, meaning we're shepherding and guiding people to things that are nutrients, are good nutrients for them, or water, or rest, or the role of a pastor over the years I've really learned has grown to actually be inaccurate. More often than not, it's the, and boy, this is an incredibly loving quality and compassion, to be tender, bedside manner, hospital visitation, bereavement, all of that. These are wonderful attributes of Christ and of a pastor, no doubt about that. It should be. But the pastor also is the one who cannot tell people simply what they want to hear.
Right.
The pastor has to shape the direction and the turns in a person's life by introducing truth where there's too sharp a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn.
Mm-hmm.
You ever gone down Whiteside Mountain? Or you ever gone down the overlook towards Cashers in an icy road with no guardrails?
Yeah.
It's like, what in the world were they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you fall off that cliff, it could be a week, right?
Right.
They find you. I'm thinking to myself, what? This is the greatest oversight in the history of the solar system. And I'm thinking to myself, we need guardrails. Mm-hmm. So pastors put up guardrails. They're supposed to make us think. They're supposed to help us think critically and have the mind of Christ, and is supposed to share truth. So I don't know. That's a pretty long answer, actually.
No, that's great. Thank you. So last week was Pushing Back the Darkness pastorally. We have Easter, or I guess we have Palm Sunday and then Easter. So we're kind of taking a break a little bit from the sermon series. Mm-hmm. So what's going to be the last?
How to push back the darkness instructively, meaning what? Well, apostles, prophets, mm-hmm. evangelists, pastors, and teachers. What are we looking for in a teacher? What is God looking for? The responsibility of a teacher, the heavy weight that a teacher tries not to be a false teacher, and who's teaching us, and who have we afforded the privilege of having a voice in our life, and is it a good voice or a bad voice? And how do we teach others? Mm. So that's kind of the last one of the 5, according to the Apostle Paul, anyway. And I heard someone say something the other day. It was at a funeral, of all places. And he said, the deceased, he's talking about the deceased. He says, I don't know that I would call him my mentor, but I would definitely call me his student. And I thought, wow, here's a man who has given someone else the responsibility of teaching them, though the teacher may not be fully aware of it.
Interesting.
And in so doing, we're reminded of the fact that we are each teaching other people. You're teaching your daughter, India, right? Every day. Have you driven down the road with her in the passenger seat yet, and she mimics you?
She's in the back seat, but yeah.
Yeah, well, she'll be in the front seat one day, and you'll do something, and she'll mimic you, and you'll say to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't know that I actually want that.
Yeah.
So when that happens, you'll realize you're a teacher, whether you talk or not. And that becomes very scary. So, yeah, how do we push the back to darkness? Instructively, I call it.
Nice. Yeah, and teachers, the Bible says, I mean, it's a scary passage, but it says they will be judged more harshly.
Yeah, James 3:1. That's right. You're exactly right. And then there's this one. I like this one, that those who are elders who basically preach and teach the word are worthy of double honor. But that's not. Think about that for a second. Double honor means double responsibility.
Double responsibility, exactly.
Yeah, you can look at that 2 ways. To whom much responsibility has been given, much is required.
It's like a quarterback, right, for a football team. You get all the praise, but if the team's not going well, then you get all the blame.
You do. And you get to wear that red thing over your jersey and not get tackled Monday through Saturday. Right. But come Sunday, they're going to kill you.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Ooh, good analogies. I like it. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to send your emails, questions to askgary@cbchighlands.com. We have one more in this sermon series. Really looking forward to it, but over the next 2 weeks, we have a break as we learn about Palm Sunday and Easter, and really looking forward to it. So, Pastor Gary, thank you so much.
Okay, buddy. Thanks, man. Good work.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to email Gary your questions at askgary@cbchighlands.com.